Yes, sir.
I have two questions. The first one is, one of the criticisms has been that AFRICOM obviously has got no military forces under its command, and that this is in fact the militarization of American foreign policy and American aid. My question to you is, why do you need the military for a job that's been done by USAID or by the State Department?
All right. First, thank you for noting that we have no assigned forces. That's true. When we want to do exercises and engagement, we have to request for forces, RFF the forces back to the Pentagon, and the procedure is working. That is an overall Pentagon decision. I have been asked many times, isn't this the militarization of foreign policy? Having lived and worked this for the last 2 years, I would say it is the exact opposite. You know, the people who are learning about the greater foreign policy goals, the agencies who have been working on the continent for many, many decades, I think are the fellow military with whom I work. The point that I think that is not quite accurate is the U.S. military, as seen here by the European Command, the U.S. military have had programs for decades on the continent. As I said, when I went through the European Command en route to Burundi, there were ongoing programs. And certainly when I was U.S. ambassador in Ghana, we had a robust mill-to-mill engagement program. We started the state partnership program. So I think that what we want to do is find the African partners who are looking to build peace and stability in their nations and in their regions. I point to the African Standby Forces. I don't know if you know about those that the AU is supporting. We are partnering with those African Standby Forces as they build, and their goal is 2010 to come online with battalions for each of the 5 geographic areas. Whether they meet that or not, they're working hard, and this is a goal that we'll stand beside and partner with them. That's the lane that the U.S. military should be in.
And my second question, you just mentioned...
I thought that was 2 questions at once.
No. That was just one. The second one was you recently went to Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. There's 2 problems there. There was the murders of the head of state and the military chief. But there's also the problem of drug trafficking through Guinea-Bissau to Europe. Can you tell us something about what the United States is doing about that?
Actually, I'm very, very pleased with what we're building inside the command. And well, there are many ways I can answer this. First of all, there are nations in West Africa who really want to work with all of the U.S. government agencies who can help them fight this scourge of the drug trafficking, because not only has it doubled over the past at least 3 to 4 years, to the point where about $2 billion are flowing through West Africa, $2 billion in cocaine trade up into Europe. I see the difference. It's dramatic. I mean, we know it's a serious problem. Cape Verde is right out there, you know, in the ocean. We have had 2 Coast Guard law enforcement detachments that worked with the Cape Verdean Coast Guard. We worked with the Portuguese in training some of the police, some of the methodology. So this is all positive, and we're also working on the level of helping them with their laws. They want to stiffen and change their laws, as some of the other nations in West Africa, specifically about illegal fishing. We are coordinating. We're working with the MAOC, the Maritime Center in Lisbon, to figure out how we can share information that will be able to be shared with the African nations as they build their capacity to try and reverse this trend. How about my Ghanaian brother over there?
Thank you. On the issue of strategic communications, I'm wondering what do you have in place, you know, letting the American people know about some of these things that you're doing in the region? Because a lot of times the U.S. government does some great things, but the American people are kept in the dark.
Well, that's a very good question. I may take that back to my public affairs office. You know, I think our major initiative after standing up the command, you know, we have this image of building an airplane when it's flying, you know, because that's sort of what we did from October '07 to October '08. And then I think our first audience that we were communicating with were the Africans, to make sure that they understood why we were doing this reorganization as we did. And I believe we've made progress this year. It doesn't mean that it's over. We have to continue that communication. That's one of the reasons I travel as much as I do to the continent. But I come back here. We need to be up on Capitol Hill. But to the American people writ large, I've been to a number of university campuses to speak because there was, some real initial negative reaction to the command. I think it was because we probably didn't sufficiently explain it when we began. But I'll take that as a to-do.
Okay. So when you talk about sustained security engagement in the mission statement, how does that apply for AFRICOM in Somalia, actually within Somalia, to foster environments where children and teenagers aren't given options not to engage in what they are in?
Somalia is a very, very important country, and the situation is exceptionally serious, and that is separate from the pirate issue. But I mean, the pirate issue is one part of it. I think the U.S. government has been working diligently with the UN, the UN Security, the UN Secretary General's Special Representative Ould Abdallah. They have been working first on the Djibouti process to support the transition federal government, because I think everyone knows that until there is a solution to the instability on the land, the problems of the sea won't be solved, but certainly, the problems for the displacement of the persons and the tragedy of the things you've just mentioned. There is a great deal of hope right now, and I think the conference just 2 weeks ago in Brussels, where about $200 million was pledged. This is all in security affairs. Separate from education, food security, and all of that. I think that's a very important and healthy sign. The work that the Africa Command has done up until now in Somalia is working with the AMISOM peacekeepers who have gone in, working with the Ugandans, with the Burundians, the training and equip. The biggest part of that is State Department funding, but we would help with airlift and getting the logistics there. Yes.
How involved do you think AFRICOM will be to handle the piracy issue off the coast of East Africa?
Well, it's a good question because the piracy issue is being handled with the international coalition, because we are all of a mind, under the several UN Security Council resolutions. So there is an international coalition, including the Russians, the Russian colleague here. Any number of nations, the Chinese, the Indians, have joined in this coalition. The U.S. military presence there is headed by the Central Command. They have the assets, they have the task force, the naval task force there. But the Africa Command, plays a supporting role to the Central Command in this initiative.
Just have a follow-up?
Of course.
I know it's only been just a little over 100 days for President Obama. Have any plans to meet with him to discuss the AFRICOM?
The Africa Command? That's an excellent question. I think maybe I'll take that one back from my boss. Actually, I know that when he was back at the time of the posture statement, there was a chance for all of the combatant commanders, the four-star combatant commanders, to meet with the new President of the United States. So I don't have all the details of that conversation.
What changes have you seen, if any, since the change in the White House, in terms of AFRICOM, if any?
Well, we're pretty busy doing our own building. What we do is
no different directives.
We know that both the Somali policy and the Sudan policy is under review by the National Security Council. So, as we always say, we wait for the policymakers to make policy decisions and choices, and then we will be directed, and we'll see if that changes any of the engagement and programs and activities we have planned.